Hi friends, this is Avinash Kumar. Welcome you all in this video. In this video, we are going to cover a live demo of all the points discussed in hazard relation. So let's move to the live demo. So as we discussed uh, in the hazard relation, the first one I'm going to give a demo of aggregation. So in aggregation, what we have understood is like if a class is having a reference of another class, that is comes into the hazard relation and it comes under the part of aggregation. So here what we have done, I have created a address class, and for example I have taken a data member as a country. I have taken it as an attribute of address class, and in customer class the hazard relation is here with the address. So customer has address, this kind of relation is made. So this is actually example of aggregation. So whenever we use a reference of another class into another class, like reference of address into another class, that is customer, that comes into the aggregation. So let's execute it. So what I need to do this, so first of all I need to create address class object, and that address class object I need to pass into the customer. So I'm injecting the dependency using constructor. It can be done by different ways. It can be passed using the setter getter also, or directly you can create a object of address class inside the customer class. So here what I'm doing is passing injection of address object using the constructor of customer. So here I have now the object of customer in this reference variable. So if I want to call the method that is present in address class, so how can you do this? So if you go to this method customer, we have a get address method that actually returns the reference of object of address. So I have just taken a customer.getAddress, and this method will give the object of address. And if once we will get the address object, then we can call the method of address classes. So here this get country is a method of address class, and it has been executed. Let's try to run. Now what actually we have kept into the as a value India in a country, so that I'm able to call from this particular line of code. So when we come with the next example, it is known as composition. And the composition, in composition, what actually happens, as we have discussed, like if a class is having a reference of other class, is comes to aggregation, but if two different classes having a strong relation with them, that comes to the composition. So in web we have some examples for the composition to put this reference as a final, but as per my understanding it is not an example of composition, because in spite of making it final, this address can be used and kept into the other classes without using the customer. Like it can be used into the supplier, it can be used into the home, it can be used into the office. This address reference means it is not directly correlated with the customer. To instantiating an address, we do not need customer here with this final only. So it is not example of composition. So what actually the example of composition is, as I earlier told that the example of composition means the strong relation between the classes. So now moving to the example of composition. But before moving the composition example, let's talk about like inner classes, because that step it needs to be covered before jump into the composition. So let's start with the inner class. So inner class, as I already discussed, that it can be of two different type, as a non-static and a static inner class. So let's move on to a non-static inner class example. So here what I have done is I have made a inner class here, and is this inner class, what I have done, it is a non-static inner class first of all. So it's an example of non-static inner class. So here it is the inner class, and this comes under the class A, and it's a non-static inner class. So in the rules we have discussed that if a class is a non-static inner class, then the outer class members, whether it's a static or non-static, can directly use into the inner class here. So we do not need to worry about these things. So what I have done, I have made a class A. There is a two members are here. One is static, second one is non-static. And since it's a static, and so I have initialized it under the static block, and here it is initialized under the initialized into the constructor. And this is the way. If you not aware about the static block, then watch my video on static keyword in Java. And if you do not aware about the constructors, so kindly watch my video constructor in Java. Now moving ahead, how we can create the object of this inner class B, which is actually a non-static. So for that, what I need to do, I need to first create the object of outer class. On top of that, I need to call this kind of new B. Then I'll be able to create the object of inner class. Since it is non-static, so we have already covered that in a static keyword in Java, that we cannot call it using the class name. So I need to actually create object of this to call the constructor of class B. And after that, once I'll get the constructor of B, sorry, object of B, then we are able to call the method which is actually under the class B. Let's execute it. Okay, so run configuration, doesn't get the call of non-static. Okay. So here, what actually happened, once class is being loaded, that this, okay, sorry, what happened actually, this println method has been executed, and here a value, a static member, is printed, and the value a2, I'm not a static member, has been printed. So this is how the thing worked over here. But moving to next is, like, we have seen like dot class files, but what actually happens when we create an inner class, then how the dot class file is being created. To see this, we'll go to the compiled part. Here we can get the thing that is non-static. It's a source only. We'll go to the bin. Okay, yes, here. So here the inner classes compile dot class is also being created with the using dollar. In identifier in Java, we have covered that in a class name also we can use dollar. So by default, if there is any inner class, then Java uses dollar to assign, to make this over here like B is a part of class A. Now moving to next topic, what if this class will be the static class, means static inner classes example. So here this is an example of a static inner class. So here what I have done, I have made a class A. Again, the similar example with a static member with a non-static member, and I have made this inner class with a static. So this is a like normal interview question, that can we create a class as a static? So the answer is like, Yes, we can create a static class, but only with the inner class. We cannot use static with the outer class. It will give a compile time error. So we can create a static inner class. In example also, during discussion I have discussed the rules that we can call static member directly to the static inner class, but we cannot call any member of outer class. Those are non-static in nature. So we cannot call this. Why? Because static members memory is being allocated at the time of class load only. So at the class loading time, the memory for class B, memory for class A is being allocated, but for A2 is not being allocated until the object of class A will be created. So that is why this kind of compiler we are facing. So what we need to do, this we'll cover now, but if you don't know about these things, so watch my video static keyword in Java. Okay, so how we can use a non-static member into the inner class. So to use a non-static member of outer class into the inner class, we need to do this kind of thing. We need to create a method which actually expect object as a parameter of outer class, and because it's an object, so we can access the instance member of that class. So here by this way we can do this. So now let's execute it. So before during the execution, how we can do this kind of thing, so here we can check that in a class B, what is this method is a static method, so directly dot class A dot B dot static method can be called. So I'm going to call this. So here I am part of class member. This method has been executed. So what if I want to create the object of class B? How we can do this? So how we can do this? This is the example. Directly we can go with B cannot be resolved as a type. Let me do this. Okay, it's done. So it was an import error. So now how we can create the object of B? So using class A. So using class A, the object of B is being created, and here the B object is created, and I have passed the object of A. So at the time of the execution, I'll get a part of object, which is a A2 value, which is a non-static value. So we have seen two different examples of inner classes, A using non-static inner class and the B is static inner class. So in example number 1, how we have created the object of inner class, we are using outer class and then we are creating inner class object. In examples 2, how we are creating the inner class object, we are getting the access of inner class with the help of outer class. So here we can understand easily, like means without a, if you want to go with the, or if you want to access the inner class, we do not have any access without with the help of outer class. So that shows the strong relation. Whenever we need to create the inner class, if we want to deal with the inner class, we have to come with the outer class. So without outer class, the inner class existence doesn't exist, or if inner class doesn't exist in the outer class, it means that the attribute is not completed. So this is very important, and this is example of composition also. So let's take a live example of composition a bit in a live manner. So I'm going to use this. So here what we have done, we have created a class car, and in this class car, what we have done, we have taken an example like a static class name, and here we have created a inner class engine, and in this inner class I have made the setter getter and all these things, and here is a static block which actually initializing this class name, and this is all about that method setter getter and all. So this is an example of composition if we talk about the live example. So if we talk about composition, then we should come with the inner class example. If we talk about the implementation of aggregation, then we need to come up with the has a relation of, means taking a reference of other classes. So let's try to execute this. What I have done, I have made the object of engines because it's a static inner class, so directly with the class name it will be accessible, putting value into that, and after that call the getter method, and we are aware of it. So yes, the answer is what actually we have set the value, that is 10,000 we are getting as output. So if we conclude the whole live demo, we can say that if we talk about aggregation implementation can only be done when a reference of different class we are using, then it's example of aggregation. If you're putting final over here, it will not be the example of composition. Why the composition example is not being fulfilled with the finally used only? Because we have seen in the inner classes, if we create the objects for non-static inner class, we need to we need actually outer class interference to get the object of inner class. So that actually over here, and for the static we are also, we can see over here, like without interfering outer class we cannot take the value of inner class. So that shows a complete relationship or complete bond between those classes. So that is a strong bond for what we are talking about. So that composition is always come up with the strong bond, and the aggregation has a relation, but it is not that much strong bond if we talk about. So composition always about the strong bond. So that's it from my side in the live demo, and during this discussion of this hazard relation, we have covered some questions, and those questions are like, what is difference between composition and aggregation in Java, why composition is being used, what is the difference between composition and inheritance, how aggregation is implemented in Java, how composition is implemented in Java, can we use the static keyword with class, what is dot class file name of the inner class, what are the roles and rules to create static or non-static inner classes, what is association. So in a hazard relation demonstration, while it was a theory demonstration or live demonstration, I have covered all these answers of questions. So that's it from my side for this topic. In the next video we will discuss on topic introduction to package in Java. Till then, thanks. Kindly like and share this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave comments if you want to know any clarification. Thanks once again.